Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes.
And me too. Okay. And I'm at home, so I apologize in advance if you hear children or a dog. That's the
We
way it is these
understand.
days. Now, I was trying to, show I'm a ODU alma mater as well.
Yeah.
Got my little ODU pillow here in the back. Well, good evening. It's going to be intimate, and that's perfectly fine. So it should be, a conversation. Of course, I'm going to be talking about smart credit decisions, some mindful habits to ensure financial success. And I thought that I would start by, explaining what credit is, because if you don't know what credit is, then you certainly can't be mindful of it, right? Or make smart decisions surrounding credit. So my presentation is going to start there. But just to give you all a little bit about myself, as I mentioned, I have children. I have twins, actually, Kennedy and Kalia. They're age 9. They just turned 9 in September. And I do have a fur baby, Marshall, a beagle mix. And I am a practicing attorney, and I have also my planning on purpose today, where I like to help individuals plan for the future today, because we all know stuff happens. Just last week, as a matter of fact, dropping my kids off to school, somebody ran into the back of my car and didn't have insurance. Now, could I have planned that morning? Absolutely not. But of course, we have uninsured motorist insurance to cover things like that, right? So it's planning on purpose today. Example, right, with from my own life, right? And then welcome to whoever just joined us. Now we haven't started yet. Ms. Witherspoon, did you want me to wait just a couple more minutes to go ahead and get started? I know it's 6:03.
We can wait about 2 minutes to about
Okay.
6:05 to let a few more come in, and we can get started. Is everyone doing
Okay.
all right this evening?
Yes, doing well.
Good, good, good.
And those of you that don't have your camera on, if you feel comfortable, go ahead and share your video so I can see who I'm talking to.
All right, Kristan, we're gonna go ahead and get started.
Sounds good to me. So let's get started. So, like I said, let's do some credit 101, some basics. What is credit? How do you maintain it? How do you repair it? I know these are questions that I get often. So let's get started. So credit reports and scores. A credit report is the history of how one has managed their finances, basically. So are you paying your bills on time? Are you repaying your debt? FICO, I'm sure everybody has heard of FICO, but may not exactly understand what that means, how it's used for your benefit or to your detriment. So we are going to get into that. But your FICO does dictate whether or not your application is going to be approved. So whatever you're applying for, if you're applying for, let's say you're renting your first apartment, you're applying for a car loan, you're applying for a mortgage, more than likely they're going to be pulling your credit score and they're going to be looking at your FICO. Again, it's a way of knowing, have you managed your finances? FICO score ranges between 300 and 850. And my screen should be clicking along, is it? Y'all see the next credit reporting agencies?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So everyone should have heard of Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Those are the 3 biggest credit reporting agencies. So whenever you're applying for some type of credit, a loan, or you're looking to rent a place, they're going to be likely pulling one of those. I do encourage everyone to go ahead and pull their credit if they haven't done that, and not just Credit Karma, but actually pull your full credit report. And we're going to get into that a little bit. And there's one website that I've listed here where you can get a free credit report. You can also go to freecreditreport.com. So if you have gone in and looked to get something, and you're denied credit for some reason, you're going to be entitled to a free copy. So they may not offer that up to you right away, but if you are applying for a credit card or a car loan, and for some reason they deny you the credit, go ahead and ask them for a copy of your credit report. You'll be entitled to a free copy. If your employer runs a background check to include your credit, you can also request a copy and get that for free. Or insurance. If you're unemployed, you can get a copy for free. If you receive public assistance, you can get one for free. And if you've had an item removed or corrected, you're entitled to a free copy as well. Okay, now let's talk about what makes up the FICO and the credit report. So there's 5 main sections. There's going to be a section that goes over your personal information. So your name, all of your aliases, if you've gone by previous names in the past, your addresses, anything that's public. So, you know, if you've ever had any lawsuits filed against you, that would be a part of your credit report. Certainly any accounts that you have in collections, information about your creditors, even if you're current, that information would still show up on your credit report, and any inquiries. And so when I say inquiries, what that means is, you know, anytime you apply for anything, you apply for that car loan, you apply for a mortgage, you apply to rent a place, it's going to show up as a hit on your credit or an inquiry. Okay. And here's just more breakdown of the 5 main sections. So I did kind of go over that a little bit, but here's just, it elaborated a little bit more if anybody was wanting to take notes on that. And there are such thing as hard and soft inquiries. I'll talk about that a little bit later. Okay. I'm saying okay like y'all are going to respond, but it's all right. Okay, so here's the ranges. If you have a 580 plus, then you can pretty much get some type of loan. If you're looking to apply for a mortgage, for example, you're not going to get the best, but you can get approved for a loan. 640 plus, you'll get a little more options. 720 plus, you're getting the best interest rates. And if anything above a 780, lenders are basically going to be fighting for your business. So if you're looking to purchase your first home, you're looking to get a new car, and of course you want the best interest rate, right? You don't want to be paying 18%, 25%. You want something 5% and below. Then you need to strive to be somewhere in the 700 range, but certainly anywhere in the 600 will get you approved. Okay. Now, probably wondering, how do they come up with the score, right? So there is definitely a mystery, if you will, surrounding it, but there have been experts that have looked into this and studied it. So we can pretty much tell this is what makes up the FICO score. The biggest percentage is your payment history. Are you making your payments on time, right? And I tell clients that it's not necessarily that if your payment is due on the 1st that you make it on the 1st, but try to make it within that, 5-day, 10-day grace period, and certainly make it before it's 30 days late, because after 30 days, your creditors will be reporting it as late. And 35% is what makes up your FICO score. Revolving accounts, 30%, age of credit, 15%, mix of credit, 10%, and inquiries, 10%. Again, every time you go into a store, they're going to be offering you an extra 10%, 15% off if you apply for credit. Maybe don't do that, because those are inquiries and it does impact your score. Okay. I know it's tempting, because Lord knows I love to shop too. So, but you have to say no. Okay. So what hurts your score the most? Bankruptcy, any unpaid liens, unpaid judgments, accounts that are in collections. Going back to the payment history, right? Are you maintaining your debt basically? And are you repaying what you owe? That is what's most important. So you want to keep that in mind. Bankruptcies do have long lasting impact to your credit. Now, not necessarily the worst thing to happen to you, because certainly after you file bankruptcy, you can still qualify for things, but you're going to be looking at the higher interest rates. Okay. Also recency, what's happened in the last year, 2 years, 3 years, something that happened more than 3 years ago may not impact your score as much as something that happened within the last year. Okay, and here we go, some other harmful items that I just wanted to list here. So I don't know if anybody's taking notes, but we don't have to spend too much time on that. What helps is the history of your account. So I know when I was an ODU student 2 decades ago, I got my first credit card, and I still have that account open. I don't use it because the interest rate, I believe, was at 18.25%. Now, as a college student, that was pretty much my only option. I didn't have any credit. So I did use that credit card, built it up, and now I have, a lot more credit with that particular credit company. And I certainly will not be closing it, because it does help that I've had that for 2 decades. You want to have, a variety, you want to diversify. So they're not looking, do you just have one credit account? Do you have a few? How are you maintaining them, right? And it's always best, I say, you'll see here 0 to 19% utilization as what helps your score most, but realistically, what I advise my clients of is 30% and under. Okay. And of course, there may be times where you have to use more than that, but we're going to be talking about some mindful habits today to make sure that you have financial success, and hopefully you don't have to utilize credit more than 30%. Okay, so this may be helpful to a lot of you who are young or not so young, my age or older, and you've made some mistakes. You're looking to clean up your credit. You can do what's called the disputing process. I'm sorry, I skipped too far. Now, if you're in the process of applying for a mortgage loan, don't dispute. Just leave it as it is. They will give you an opportunity to explain your credit, if you will. So the best time to do any disputing would be before you start looking for that house, before you start looking to rent a new place or get a new credit line. Don't do it in the process, because that will not be helpful. Okay, now there is the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Any inaccurate, incomplete, or unverifiable information must be corrected or deleted. So again, if you're pulling your credit report, you see anything that's inaccurate, and it could be one number off, it's still inaccurate. You can dispute it. They have 10 days to get the information to the creditor, and the creditor has 30 days to respond. If they don't respond within that 30 days, they have to delete it. Okay. Now, if the item comes back verified, so you're disputing something, the creditor comes back and says, nope, this is justified, this is accurate information, you can request a copy of the supporting documentation. So whatever the creditor used to verify that that was in fact accurate, you can request a copy of it. And if they don't provide that documentation to you, they have to delete the item. Okay. Now, there's multiple ways that you can do disputes. You can do it directly with your credit reporting agencies. So Equifax, Experian, TransUnion are the most familiar. You can do it with whoever gave you a copy of the credit report. So if you're at the car dealership and they come back, saying, well, we're not going to give you the car because of X, Y, and Z, you can go ahead and file a dispute with them. I do recommend that if you're going to dispute something, that you have a paper trail. So you can do this online, you can do it by mail, you can do it by phone. However, phone is not preferable. You want a paper trail, because when we go back to those timelines, 10 days, 30 days, that'll matter. So if you have the paper trail saying, I sent this on X, Y, and Z date, and they come back a day or two later, you have your paper saying you did what you're supposed to do, they didn't do what they're supposed to do, it matters. You can get that deletion just because they were 2 days late. But if you did it over the phone, there's no paper trail. Okay. And diligence, be diligent, be patient. It is a process, but it'll be worth it in the end. These are the type of responses that you'll get if you do decide to dispute: frivolous, verified, doesn't belong to you, incorrect. Of course, you'd be looking for the doesn't belong to you or incorrect. But if you get anything that says frivolous or verified, certainly you can request documentation. And if they don't provide it, again, they do have to delete the item. And we're almost to our mindful habits. Alternative removal, certainly you can ask nicely. So if you're in the process of paying off some debt, you can certainly request of your creditor that, in exchange of you paying this off early, that they remove that mark that they made 6 months ago where you missed that payment. That'll help your credit. It doesn't hurt to say please and thank you, and remember to smile when you're on the phone. It does carry over, believe it or not. And you'll be surprised what you can get simply by asking. So my mom always said, you have not because you ask not. So be sure to ask. Okay. All right. Let's see, where are we? So now we're going to get into mindful habits to ensure financial success. Did anybody have any questions about, just credit in general before we start talking about the habits? You can unmute yourself and ask. No questions? All right, we'll move right along. And I know.
Also, while she's presenting information, if you do come up with a question that might be a part of any particular slide or anything that she's showing, feel free to put it in the chat. So when we start to ask questions, you don't forget, and that we do have them there for her to go through, but feel free to engage right in the chat.
Thank you for that. Yep, absolutely. Ask questions. I'm happy to address any questions or concerns that you all may have. So you guys are in control. We're all in control of our financial success. So my first tip, if you will, is to pay yourself first. So this goes back to that utilization where I recommend utilizing 30% or less of your credit. And if you're paying yourself first, if you remember to save, so when you get that paycheck, I know it's burning in your bank account, you want to whip out that debit card or your credit card, but if you will go ahead and save money first, and I say save 3 to 6 months of your expenditures. People will say save 3 to 6 months of your income for a rainy day, but we all know that people spend more money than they make. And you don't notice it, but it adds up. You're going to Starbucks every day. I'm a Dunkin' Donuts person myself. But if you're going to Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, getting that coffee every day, $5, $6, $7, however much you're spending on that, it really does add up. So if you're paying yourself first, using cash when you can, you're using less credit. Okay. The second tip that I have is to rent. I know that it is very popular advice for people to say, don't pay somebody when you could be investing in yourself. And I do believe that. However, straight out of college, for example, are you really ready to buy? I would not recommend it because when you buy, and I love being a homeowner, but if something happens in this house, I'm responsible. Something happens to that water line outside, I'm responsible. So one way that a lot of my clients come to me with money troubles is because the unforeseen happened and they had to use credit. Now, if you're renting, your landlord, all you have to do is run to the landlord and say, hey, the washer and dryer is not working. The air conditioning's not working, and they have to fix the HVAC instead of you have to write a check for $10,000. And yes, you heard me, $10,000 to replace an HVAC. And it can be more expensive than that. So what I say is rent, or better yet, stay at home with your parents. I know when I was an ODU student, I commuted and I lived at home with my mother, and it was very helpful because when I went to law school, I was, debt free from college. I had scholarships at ODU and went into law school with money that I had been able to save. So didn't have to use credit cards. All right. Next tip, back to that utilization. I can't stress it enough because it is so easy for it to get away from you. Now you want to use your credit because you're not going to build, a FICO score if you're not using credit. So I always recommend get a little credit card, purchase gas on it, maybe some groceries, and be sure to make your payments on time, but keep that utilization 30% or below. Another useful tip is to diversify. So you shouldn't have all of your credit in one particular platform, if you will. Credit cards, loans, and even being an authorized user in some cases can help you build your credit. So as college students, if you have parents that would be willing to add you as an authorized user, you may want to look into that because that could be a way possibly for you to start building your credit while you're in school. Okay. Now, I apologize for shaking my head. It's just that I have a screen in front of me and to the right of me. Now, here are some don'ts, and I don't mean to be nasty or mean or anything like that, but don't cosign. Simply do not cosign. I did that and got burned so badly. And I know that we love our friends, we love our family members, we want to help when we can. But if you're not in the position to handle it on your own, should that person drop the ball, do not cosign. I mean, my mother always told me, do not lend money that you have to see back. So basically, once you give it away, you're giving it away. Don't expect that person's going to pay you back. So I cannot stress it enough. Do not co-sign. It is one of the quickest ways to destroy your credit for something that you didn't necessarily do, right? Make payments or don't make payments beyond your grace period. And we did talk about that a little bit earlier. So if you're reading your contract, you'll see that most companies or lenders will give you about a 5-day grace period. Some will give you 10 to 15 days. You want to read the terms. And I know that's not popular. I'm the attorney, so I read the small print. But you do want to be mindful of that because one company may give you 10 days, another company may give you 5 days, and you may be operating on the assumption that everybody gives you 10 days. That's not true. So possibly it could be a shorter or no grace period. I've not seen a no grace period, but that could exist. So be mindful of your payment date, make your payments on time. And certainly if you cannot make the payment on the due date, don't make the payment beyond 30 days late, because after 30 days, your creditor will be reporting that you've missed the payment. Okay. And going back to when we talked about credit one-on-one, payment history is the biggest portion of what makes up your FICO score. Okay. Don't close your accounts. Doesn't mean you have to keep using them. Like I said, I still have my first credit card that I opened when I was an ODU student 20 years ago. I keep it open because I have a lot of credit with that company. I don't use it because the interest rate is so high. However, because I've had credit with this company for 20 years, it does boost my credit score. Okay. Don't apply for every store credit card. I know the holidays are upon us. So they will be asking, they will be calling you, they will be mailing. When you go online shopping, they're going to be saying you pre-qualified. How possibly did you pre-qualify when you just went on that website? I don't understand it, but you're going to see it. And just resist the urge to save that extra 10, 15% that they're offering, because the inquiries do impact your credit score. Okay. Don't borrow more than you need. I don't know if we have any financial aid officers on the meeting tonight, but it gets people in trouble all the time. Student loans, borrowing more money than they need. And believe it or not, your student loan debt does impact your credit score as well. So it's very important to, if you need to borrow, borrow, but just borrow what you need, because so quickly you're going to be out of school. Those student loans are going to become due. And if you're not able to make the payments because you're paying, I believe the consolidation rate for federal loans is 6%. Think about 6% on $20,000 versus 6% on $60,000, right? So don't borrow more than you need. And I'll leave it there. Now, you do want to review your credit report, annualcreditreport.com or freecreditreport.com. Now, this is what I recommend to all of my clients. You're entitled to one free credit report from each agency a year. So I say pull your credit quarterly. So maybe the first quarter you pull it from TransUnion. Maybe the second quarter you pull it from Experian, and the third quarter you pull it from Equifax. The reason why you don't want to pull all of them at the same time is because things are going to change, and you want to review your credit report regularly for inaccuracies, especially in this day and age of identity theft. It is so easy for somebody to steal your identity, open an account in your name. It could be family, it could be friends, it could be your neighbor, it could be a stranger. And as long as you're keeping up with your credit, you can dispute inaccuracies and hopefully not only maintain your credit, but recover anything that you may have lost. Okay. So again, you're entitled to one credit report free each year. I recommend pulling one each quarter. So you start with TransUnion, Equifax, Experian, and work your way down, but pull one each quarter and not all at the same time, because then you're done for the year. All right, so that was fast. I know I had an hour, but those are my tips. Did anybody have any questions or concerns, comments?
I know for sure you covered a lot. So I know that you covered some of the details that I know off of experience that our students do not know. A lot of times we do our financial literacy fair and we ask certain questions about credit. So I'm hoping that you all were able to not only get the information that you're looking for, but also know how to really apply a lot of the do's and don'ts that she listed. Does anyone have any, not only a question, but just a comment or a situation that you might want to ask Ms. Pettiford about?
I'm surprised there's no question. I know I get a question often about credit repair. So I did want to make sure that I had, some tips in the presentation about that, because it is definitely something you can do on your own. You don't have to pay somebody to repair your credit. I know, not to knock anybody that, that's their occupation, that's what the service that they provide, because it can be tedious to maintain the paper trail, to monitor the calendar for the dates. Certainly it could be easier to pay somebody, but I did want to provide some tips so that you could be aware that you can be in control of your own credit. And certainly if there were some things that you wanted to clear up, you can do it on your own.
Well, all right. If there isn't any questions, we are going to bring it to a close. I want to thank everyone who showed up tonight. You all have a wonderful Veterans Day. If it's anyone on the line who has been in the military, we thank you for your service. Most of all, Kristan, I thank you for taking the time out today to share such great knowledge. My goal is to ensure that the students also kind of see this video. We're going to possibly post it on the YouTube as well for auxiliary services, so it can continue to bless other people as well. So I'll send you the link when it's up, because I think it was an excellent presentation.
Well, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. Have a good evening, everyone.
All right,
Bye.
good night.